So right now, I'm going to give him a quick call.
You need to understand how badly I need this deal, or at least I need something to go through.
Kind of see where he's at with the numbers, probably negotiate with him and see if we can get him to sell our finance or carry any of the balance. And hopefully we can strike up the first deal.
I've reached out to distributors, to suppliers. I've gone on listing sites like Biz Buy Sell. If this deal does not go through, I'm not going to be able to make rent, and I'm probably going to have to pack my bags and head home to my parents' house as a complete failure.
My goal with this whole series is documenting the journey of becoming a millionaire before 25.
You need to understand how badly I need this deal, or at least I need something to go through. I've already spent like over a month cold calling a bunch of sellers, over like 60 sellers in the industry. I've reached out to distributors, to suppliers. I've gone on listing sites like Biz Buy Sell to try to find sort of business I can buy, or heck, dude, at least even make some money, because I gotta do something. I left home hundreds of miles away a few months back because I decided, I'm gonna full send my dreams. I'm gonna try to pursue entrepreneurship. And so now what's happened is I'm barely gonna have enough money to pay rent, and I have to figure something out. So I've spoken to 2 sellers in the past that were even interested in selling. I have nobody else left to talk to in my list. If this deal does not go through, I'm not gonna be able to make rent, and I'm probably gonna have to pack my bags and head home to my parents' house as a complete failure.
So right now, I'm going to give him a quick call, kind of see where he's at with the numbers, probably negotiate with him and see if we can get him to sell our finance or carry any of the balance. And hopefully we can strike up the first deal. We'll see how it goes.
Yes, sir.
Hey Ben, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Is now a good time to chat?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sweet.
Set up easy. Trying to catch up on some stuff.
I gotcha. Well, really quick here. So I spoke to my folks here on my end. Everything looks good so far. I just wanted to confirm a few things. So
So I came across the seller as I was scrolling through actually Craigslist, which is funny enough, and the deal was listed for $10,000. And given that I had barely anything, I was like, well, who knows? Maybe it could actually go through. And so I basically start speaking to the seller. I get to know him a little bit. He seems like a nice, honest guy. He runs a farm in the area, and he's looking to spend more time on his farm because he had a family member that passed away, and so he needs to dedicate more time to, herding cattle and whatever livestock that he has at the farm. And so he's looking to offload his vending route. And so my goal, or my plan at least, is really not to be in vending. I see it more as break room services, whereas we take care of all of the food and coffee related things that an enterprise or a company would need us to take care of. So a lot of the companies in this space are publicly traded, they make billions of dollars a year, but it's an industry that no one really talks about, and it's super boring. So everyone, when they hear about this, thinks, oh, he's just buying some janky old ugly vending machines that you sell, candy for $1, cost you 50 cents. Not quite. There are companies in the industry that basically you're essentially renting out equipment to, you're providing coffee services for them. It's a direct ACH withdrawal from the company. And these are huge companies. So really the whole goal is to buy this route essentially and get just the foundation, get into the game, start learning, expand, and transition outside of vending and go more into micro markets, unattended retail, coffee service, water filtered service, and just go more towards the high ticket B2B services.
I'm trying to get those numbers specifically here, Ben, but what I remember is the vending machines themselves are making $20,000, right? And then
I think it was around 25 total gross is what was predicted. Hold on, I'm trying to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, you wanted 20,000 in it, but it was making 25 gross.
Correct.
Okay. So, and then you mentioned in 2024 I'm looking here for the number. in 2024, you mentioned that the micro market made 32,878,
That sounds right. Yes, sir.
and that includes the water or just the micro market by itself?
That, I believe, was just the micro market.
When I first spoke to the seller, he told me that he was looking to sell off 7 locations, only vending machine locations, which is kind of janky, but it is what it is, right? And as I got to know him and I got to build more rapport with him, I heard that he had 1 location that was a micro market. So a micro market is more like unattended retail, essentially. So it's no vending machines. It's basically you have all the space or all the real estate within the break room, usually. So it's an open market design. You have unattended kiosk, a tablet where people pay during their break room, and those usually make a lot more money. And so what I saw is Pareto's principle, which is 1 or 2 locations make 80% of all the money. And so that 1 location, he wasn't looking to sell. But as I got to speak with him, I was able to kind of convince him and say, hey, would you be able to include this break room micro market location in here? And would you also maybe be able to squeeze in the truck? Because this truck looks good and I could probably use it as well. Could we do everything into a deal? And so then the deal went from being like a little $10,000, $20,000 route to being like closer to $60,000 for all the equipment and everything, right? And instead of buying the stock, because when you do an acquisition, you can either buy the stock or you can buy the assets. Smaller transaction, I'm gonna do an asset sale because there is no goodwill and it's like the brand isn't really worth much.
And the 5,779, I'm looking at our text here, November 17th. Yeah, so that was from the water in 2024 or for this year to date?
I want to say those 2 numbers are pretty consistent. So without looking right back at it, but I remember looking back thinking it had actually gained more, but I remember they had actually, that was part of my negotiating with them. They'd started to go with Staples, and so I kind of made a pitch to them that brought them back. So, but they made a couple purchases through another competitor, and so I didn't make as many sales as I wish I had. But it ended up being a consistent number as a result of it compared to this year. So.
Oh, okay. So 2024 was consistent with this year to date so far.
Right.
So it's looking to be a little bit under 6,000 for water.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
So whenever I say water, I'm referring to pallet water delivery. How it works in the industry is you're a company, your workers work very hard in the warehouse. They do, delivery. Like there's people coming in and out, and they're working very hard. You don't want to be going to Sam's Club and carrying bags of water, or boxes of water into the company. And you don't want your employees to spend their time on that. So instead, you outsource that to a company. And so essentially, one of the services that we do for one of our clients is all we do is we go to a company, we buy literally 2 pallets of water for like $300 a pallet. And we just 2 or 3x the price, deliver it to them, and they pay it. We send in an invoice, we get the money within 1 week, boom, the money's in the bank. And so it's a service that, although super boring, super repeatable, super sticky, it's very, very profitable.
And so my estimate for a year to date, since so far it's done 16,300 for 10 months. I have 1,600 per month or 1,630 per month.
Okay.
That sounds about right, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so it should be around 20,000 this year, 19.5.
I think that's that. Yeah, I remember us discussing that. I want to say it was going to be right, just pushing 20, right under 20. I think going by the approximate number.
Okay, got it. So, and then for the water so far year to date, you'd estimate around that 5,750, 700.
Somewhere around there, yeah. Yeah, if you want to say 5,500, but I remember I had it. I should probably pull it up real quick.
Gotcha. Ben, so that all makes sense. I have, I'm looking at everything here. So with the micro market and the water, it looks like we're at a total of about 19,560 plus 5,500 that gives me around 25,000.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty ballpark. I mean, well, it's not even that ballpark. It's a little more approximate with the earning income based on both of those, both the water and the sales that have happened there.
Okay, gotcha. So, just to run you through some numbers that I'm thinking, right? So, let's see here. So, I know in the beginning, at first, right, when we first spoke, you were asking for 20,000 for the 25. You were asking 20K for the 25,000 in revenue from all the vending machines. So the 7 locations,
Right.
not the 8th, right? And so usually how vending is valued, to my understanding, it's 0.7 to 1x the revenue, depending on the stability of the route, if there's contacts or not, age of the machines, etc. So right there, I'm looking at about 0.8, right? When I divide 20 over 25, which is, right within range. I guess the only thing where I'm thinking about here is the micro market, with including the water, is at 25,000 of revenue as well. How I would value it, it would be probably around the same range, maybe a little bit more because it's a micro market. So when I do that, let's just say if it's at 0.8, it would be another 20, and then what I get is I do 20,000, and then another 20,000, and then I'm doing, let's see here. So when I do the 20 plus 20 plus the 1,500 in inventory and the 8,000 for the vehicle, it brings me at 49.5.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of doing some numbers out loud to kind of hear your thoughts and see what we can kind of work out.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. You had 20. You had 20 and 20, and then you had the 9 on the truck. Is that right?
So I remember when we spoke yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, Friday. Friday, you mentioned 8 for the truck because it might need a little bit of repairs. You said something like that.
Yeah, I did round. I was in my mind. I guess, like I said, I was negotiating against myself. If you were buying the truck with the entire route, I would drop the price down on the truck just to create a little bit of a benefit for a full purchase.
Yeah,
so
around there.
At a premium on the Micromart is because of the convenience for me. If you remember us discussing it last time, in my mind, more of the value in the vending side is in the actual, and because I went through this discussion when I first was buying, when I was talking to Stewart, and when I was just flabbergasted at him wanting $350,000 for his route. And the best I could come up, even when I took every itemized item in his route, including the vehicle, including the equipment, at a premium, I was coming up with about $110,000 worth of equipment, and so I obviously presented that to him, saying like, hey, this is really difficult to justify a premium of $200,000 on top of the actual, like if I liquidated everything else tomorrow. So I guess circling back around, I hold the Micromart at a little bit more of a premium, number one, because I wasn't like as desperate to sell it as I was the machines, because it's a one-stop shop. It's conveniently down the road from me, and I know it's generating, even on a conservative, like this has been a conservative year. If it's generating $25,000 gross, I'm pulling about $12,000 gross profit out of it. So even at any business, I feel like that you can almost pay off in a little over 2 years has some value to it, to basically recover what you got tied up in it within 2 years. So just coming from a business standpoint and the discussion from general business versus vending business, that's something that I waffle back and forth, because I guess what I'm getting at is I'm not as fixated on the total price unless we need to focus a little bit more on how we would make the transaction, because just from my input, just to give you an idea of where I'm standing, it would be very difficult for me to do $49,000 for it and then take payments for it for the next 5 years.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But if you showed up with a stack of cash for $49,000, it'd be much more enticing for me, just to paint a picture. It's a very broad stroke idea,
Sure.
but just to give an idea of where I kind of see it as. So
I understand.
because again, my biggest thing is I'm taking this money to offset another payment I'm making.
And here's the truth, man. A lot of this call I had to skip just because it was confidential to him personally, right? But throughout this call, I really wanted to dig into what did he need on a monthly basis for him to be happy to carry some payments. And for him, we got onto the numbers and he needed to make some payments on something else. And the number that he needed for it to make sense was around $1,300 a month. And so when I just thought of that, when I was like, well, let's just work backwards. Let's find out what monthly term do we need for it to make sense.
I gotcha. Okay. So I'm around like the low 50s. You're around the higher 50s. I'm on the same range as you. Like, hey, if we can make payments work, whether favorable for me as well, I'm willing to pay. In my mind, will be like closer to your price, because you're being more flexible, and vice versa, right?
Sure.
So
I think that's where the flexibility is here.
Yeah, because we're not really too far away, to be honest. I'm like right around 50 or like at 58, so it's $4,000 halfway is there pretty much. So and that's not the biggest deal. We've kind of already spent 2-3 weeks running the routes. I don't think 8,000 has to get in the way. So with that being said, Ben, what are terms that would make sense to you? I mean, I can give you my thoughts, but I'd love to hear from you first. Kind of like, what were you thinking off the top of your head, and we can kind of go from there.
Whenever I'm negotiating with somebody, I always like to have them mention the price or terms that they want first. Because who knows, maybe you could get something way better than you initially thought of asking. So whoever kind of mentions the price or the terms first loses. It's like the go-to in negotiation that they teach you in negotiation 101, right? And so I'm trying to see where he's at.
Just judging by the conversation, I know you're, and again, regardless, I think no matter what happens, we're both just, and you disagree with me if I predict anything wrong here. We're both okay with a partial payment on this part of the year, this year, and then pushing the rest of the payment off, regardless of how that plays out. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I would lean more towards more of a down payment, for this year,
Mm-hmm.
if we're able to come to some sort of agreement. It doesn't have to be half, it doesn't have to be, a substantial amount, but it would be, compared to the total. But I'd rather get a bigger chunk on the front end just for more, I guess, good faith.
Yeah.
I guess I would lean more towards preferably, some sort of down payment by the end of this year and completing the remainder of the payment within like a year. I don't know where you stand, what you were thinking, if you were wanting to do it over like a period of multiple years, or I guess I'm just saying the sooner the better for me, but I'm also trying to be flexible and work with you on what you're trying to do to make it work. So,
Yeah.
Because I know it's not easy just to throw down $60,000, $50,000, whatever.
What I was thinking in my mind here is, like you kind of like mentioned, right? It's some sort of down payment at the beginning, either this next month, if we can get everything, all the paperwork done together, done everything really quick, or just do under the table, really quick cash, call it a day, and then start transferring everything over. So that way by January, if I can be running everything, that'd be great. And then to be fully transparent, Ben, for me, it'd be a little bit more advantageous if I'm making the payments on a time span longer than a year, just because then I can make more money on the actual routes. Now, let me give you...
Right. And I assume that, because I realize, even if you come in here and pay, let's say we look at, $55,000 and you pay it down to where there's 36 left on the table. $3,000 a month is a good chunk of change to absorb when the business is only generating, 45, 50 gross. So I understand you need to also like have a little money going into your pocket. It's not just,
Right.
I know you don't want to take the business money and shovel it, have it, see it, watch it walk away, and you're working for nothing at that point. So
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. So I'm glad it kind of makes sense there. Now, I do plan on growing it and expanding the route, and possibly
Right.
maybe down the line once it expands, maybe pulling a line of credit or something, and possibly buying another route as well. Down the line, if God kind of takes me in that direction as well. And so, with that being said, I do think I'll be able to make the payments ahead of schedule, possibly in the future. But me having that flexibility for the first 2 years or so, to like things slow down, like the school is out for the 3 months, I know I won't be like crunching for payments.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So we can kind of figure out what that looks like. What would you say? I was thinking, ideally for me, anything closer to 5 years works best, but I'm not sure if that's too long for you.
Yeah, because part of it too is it's not just removing the time constraint; it's also removing the responsibility, the stress. You might say of the business, because anything I can get off my plate, off my table, is going to make my life easier as far as focusing on other stuff.
So if we go back to like the carrying payment situation, do you have a time frame in years that you kind of be open to? What would you say is probably the best you could do?
Run some numbers to see what.
And I have spreadsheets here, so if you want me to plug in numbers on your behalf, I can do that.
Yeah. Well, you tell me. You said I said 1. You said 5. Let's ballpark it right now at 3 and see what that looks like.
Okay.
Just to kind of give us a number to wrap our minds around, and if there's some flexibility there or not.
So when he told me, he's like, hey, I want 1 year. I was like, dude, I'm going to shoot for the moon, right? Hopefully we can land somewhere among the stars. It's because ideally I want to be able to cash flow the route from day one and then use that cash flow to expand and buy more, which I can get lines of credit, I can, refinance against the assets, do different things to start expanding the business. He told me he wants 1 year. I said, dude, can we do 5? I was like, there's no way he's going to say yes to 5. But then he was like, why don't we do 3 in the middle? And I was like, yo, let's freaking go.
Yeah. So if we're still sticking around like the 58,000 number, right? Just play this ballpark game with me, right? So hypothetically speaking, 58,000. Let's just say I'm gonna do payments over 3 years, right? So, but let's just say I do like an under the table payment if that works best for you. Hypothetically speaking, however you want it, ACH, cash, or whatever. December we put something in writing, and then so you have something at the time of close. Let's just say I'm gonna put a down payment of 20%. Hypothetically speaking, right? So 10%, half of that is in December, and the other half can come next year. And so let's just say it would be like 5,800, and then another 5,800, and then that would complete 20%. And so then we would have 46,400 left to pay off, and then that divided by 36 is about $1,300 a month.
Okay.
That's just one ballpark scenario.
I think if you're able to, I don't know how much cash versus official transaction you're able to do, but that also kind of, because if you're willing to do cash under the table in certain aspects, like especially on these initial payments, like the down payments, I'm not going to worry as much about this nickel and dime interest rate and stuff like that, because I recognize that a cash payment is going to offset my income on the front end, it's going to balance out. You know, I'm either going to lose this money in taxes or I'm going to lose it in interest. I guess is what I'm saying.
Right,
I'm
I
gonna be
understand.
realistic about that, and I'm not going to take from both ends, kind of thing. I'm going to recognize if you help me out over here, I'm going to try. It's fair for me to help you out on this side
Right.
as well.
So do you want to write it down here that you prefer both of the 20% down payment, hypothetically speaking, in cash?
Mhm.
Okay.
If you're able to do that, I would stick to. I wouldn't. I'm willing to forego worrying about interest based on your payments
Okay.
that we were just discussing.
Okay. Cool. That makes a lot of sense, and something I can definitely do.
I can do the math on it, but it may have some leeway one way or another. But I just feel like, in broad terms speaking, not having to bang our heads on it too much. I think that's, to me, that's fair. Me trying to be fair with you because you're helping me out on that end. I'll try to help you out on this end, kind of thing. So,
Okay.
It gives you incentive to pay in cash so that you're not having to worry about paying interest, I guess.
Cool. Okay, that makes sense. So I wrote it down here that the down payment. So far right now is I have purchase price of $58,000, down payment of 20%, 36 months is the payment schedule from there on out, which leaves a balance of $46,400, which by 36 months is $1,288 per month. I can send a picture of it to you. Does that sound about right?
That sounds reasonable as far as what all we're discussing here. I feel like it's, you've met me on my asking price, and I'm meeting you on wanting to do payments, and you've met me on cash, and I'm meeting you on no interest. So I think this is a benefit for both of us. I mean, I feel satisfied. I think overall with the terms, if you do too,
Okay.
based on what we're talking about here, I can't think of anything else.
Also, for the 20% down, which is like how much you put on a down payment of a house or an investment property, I was like, what if I can do 10% down and then 60 days later do another 10%? You don't get what you don't ask for. So might as well, ask for what you want, right? Life is too short, man. And so I asked him for that. And he said yes. I was like, let's freaking go, dude. I just wanted to give you guys quick context on basically this deal, how it ended up shaking out. So he wanted $50,000 for the route, and he was selling also his truck that goes along with the route for $8,000. And so total between both, he wanted $58,000. The route makes $50 to $55K a year. So I'm buying less than a 1x multiple, which is already good. Number two, instead of paying cash, I was able to negotiate to put 10% down, and then 60 days later, put another 10% down. So 5.8K, and then another 5.8K 60 days later. And after that, I was able to negotiate not payments for 1 year. I then countered with seller finance for 5 years, and then he said, let's do 3 years. So I'm basically buying a business worth about like 50 to 60 grand for 5.8K down out of my own pocket. I would say it's not too bad. And it's actually a fair valuation. And he's charging me 0% in interest. Talk about some deal. So right now I'm drafting up the letter of intent, or the LOI, which is basically a non-binding agreement between two parties, the seller and the buyer, that basically makes the deal only like for me, basically. So he can't shop around the deal to somebody else. It's now essentially between him and I, right? So we're going to figure it out. We're going to hash the details. I already got his financials in more detail, and we're going to figure things out. This call to me is insane. I actually can't even believe it, to be honest. The fact that I could basically buy a business essentially for $58,000, $60,000 for like 5 to 6 G's. Now, I'm hoping everything goes through, and I'm hoping everything checks out, but only time will tell. Because the reality is, because I'm so crunched in money, I have to make some money in the next 30 days. So what my plan is, I'm going to try to grow the business from scratch. Let's just assume that this deal is not going to close because there's a chance she might fall through. Who knows? We might miss a signature. Something might not check out. He could back out. You never know. So until the document is signed and the money has switched hands, we're still not in the clear. So I'm going to try to door knock, cold call, and see how it actually would be like if I were to start this business from complete scratch. Hopefully I can still keep on nurturing the seller, but as of right now, I'm really constrained for cash, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to even come up with that $6,000. But my mindset is, if the deal is good enough, the money should find the deal. So that's not a problem I'm going to worry about right now. I'm going to worry about making money, getting to that $6,000, which I don't have just yet, and hopefully being able to close this deal if everything checks out, God willing.